What is going on, Dodger fans? Thank you guys for tuning in to the Klein Dodgers podcast, the home of now your back-to-back World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers. We are presented by Tick Pick and Believe. Kevin Klein in the house. I'm joined by an exciting guest. He runs his own LA content. He does Dodgers, Lakers. I don't know what else, but I know you're a big sports fan. Empire Jeff TV in the house. Empire Jeff, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us how you're feeling. I mean, the World Series was just a few days ago, and we're still riding the highs, right?
Yeah, man. First of all, I appreciate being here. Thank you for the invite. We've been trying to line this up. Happy to get it done. And I'm still on cloud nine here, man. This was expected technically all year, yet still feels unreal at the same time. So very excited still. I don't know how many times, I'm sure you're like me, you probably rewatched these games multiple times. And even though we know the outcome, these games are still nerve-wracking. Like, even though you know the outcome, that's how crazy this was. So I'm super excited, man. And we're getting closer to putting 2025 behind us and talking about 2026. But I'm still not fully quite ready to let go of 2025 yet. The back-to-back is just too dope. I can't let it go that quick. I just can't.
It's been pretty awesome. Love seeing just the city of Los Angeles, as well as Dodger fans all across the world, just being super stoked. We're living in I think the best days right now of being a Dodgers fan, and the job's finished in 2025, but I think it was Freddie Freeman who said job in 2026 starts now. We're going to talk about some early free agency and trade rumors involving the Dodgers, as well as just kind of getting Jeff and some of your guys' thoughts in the chat of the 2025, kind of rekindling and recapping an epic season for the Dodgers. And we'll touch upon the parade as well and the celebration. But yeah, good evening, Dodger fans. Make sure to smash that like button for those watching on YouTube. If you got questions for me or Empire Jeff TV, you can drop them below in the YouTube chat. We'll try to get those throughout the episode. Yeah, I mean, I've been hearing talks of Miguel Rojas's Game 7 home run now being considered the most important or the most impactful or the best home run in Dodgers franchise history. I don't know if I'm willing to go that far. I mean, what Kirk Gibson did was pretty special. Freddie Freeman walk-off grand slam, pretty special. But Miguel Rojas Game 7 home run, yeah, top 3, top 5. I could definitely see the case. Jeff, I want to get your thoughts. So the Dodgers were down 3-2 at one point to the Blue Jays. What were you thinking? How were you feeling? And take us through your thought process.
I wasn't in a good place. I can tell you that, because it's funny because I'm kind of known as kind of the voice of reason guy. I never really panic or overreact. I kind of just wait things out and see things for what they are. Bigger picture type guy. I don't react to like one loss or a series loss in the regular season. But these playoffs, especially the World Series, when we lost game 1, I really wasn't too worried about that. When we got game 2, but there's something that clicked in game 3, and I was just like, because we couldn't score, we couldn't hit, and we couldn't with runners on. We couldn't even get runners on. If we did, we couldn't get them in. Whether it was second and third, nobody out, runner on second, nobody out. We just couldn't cash them in, and we just knew, Klein, that at some point, going to the well too often with those starters, something was going to happen. Someone was going to have a bad game, or someone was going to get hurt or something, and we were just in a whole world of trouble. I also didn't believe that Roki was going to be magic all postseason. I felt like eventually they were going to adjust to him, right? You know what I mean? And something was going to happen there. So when we won game 3, it didn't even feel like a full-fledged, like that didn't feel like game 1, 2024 walk-off, right? It felt like, good Lord, this is finally over. And then we get into game 4 and game 5 and lose. And then it's like, oh man, we're in serious trouble. Going back, they have all the momentum. We can't hit. Only hope was that we had Yoshi in game 6, right? So I figured, okay, we can get game 6. And then it's like, okay, what happens there? But they take Yoshi out after 6 innings, right? So in my mind, I'm like, okay, maybe they're saving him for game 7, but you got to get there. But when they had second and third with nobody out in the 9th, you're thinking it's done, right? Like, it's okay, here it comes. Hiroki's falling apart. They're going to bring in Glass now. What are the odds of them not getting at least one single the next 3-4 batters? Like, what are the odds of that happening? Then the wall, then the double play. and then all the craziness in Game 7. I'm telling you right now, there was probably 20 times I thought we were losing, like from the ninth inning of Game 6 all the way through Game 7. So for a guy that's pretty grounded and stable emotionally, I was a hot mess. I was a hot mess. Like I couldn't call it. I couldn't tell which way it was going to go from like the eighth inning of Game 6 on. I had no clue what was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, Game 7 was the most important game for obvious reasons, it being a Game 7 and so many back and forth, so many dramatic moments. But Game 3, I think, was the second most important game of the entire World Series. I felt like at that point, once it got to extra innings, whoever was going to win Game 3 was going to have a huge momentum shift on their side. And I know the Dodgers ended up dropping the next two games, but just having that security of winning a game at Dodger Stadium, your home turf, putting you in the position of at least being up at a certain point in the series, I felt like Game 3 was very important for that very reason. I don't know what happened to the offense those next two games. They just vanished and disappeared. But thankfully, they woke up when they got back to Toronto. They got the timely home runs and drove in runs when they needed to. I love the moment with Miguel Rojas being the last person standing in the Dodgers dugout. I think that was after Game 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then that next game, Roberts inserts him into the starting lineup, and he just makes an impact all across the diamond with his glove and the bat. So I'm going to throw out some early predictions right now. Miguel Rojas is a lock to return to the Dodgers in 2026. This is no insider intel. This is just a gut check feeling. I think the Dodgers give him a 1-year contract, and it could be his last season as a Major League Baseball player. But that's your first prediction of mine. You can take it to the bank. The Dodgers will re-sign Miguel Rojas.
I agree with that. I think that's a slam dunk case. He had said before the season, maybe 3/4 through the season, the next year would be his last. He's going to sign a 1-year deal with the Dodgers and then retire. He'd already said that before this happened. Obviously, the Dodgers had to have mutual interest. I don't necessarily think he says that unless they probably discussed it. Right. He's a good vet, right? And you need a good vet on your team. And that's like Miggy Rowe, right? For not just for being a good vet, but being a good defender. He can still get big hits, obviously. And for there's just something about having a guy like that on your team that helps lead the victory. So 100% he will be back. There's absolutely like zero doubt in my mind about that.
Yep. Were you able to go to the parade or catch it on TV or online? I did not go to the parade this year. I did last year. I think once was enough for me. I had to work anyways. So did you get to go or did you watch or?
Yeah. I went to the stadium this year. I was in the street last year. I was in the parade last year. And this year I won. My dad's never been to a parade. So I took my pops. And so I had to go to the stadium. I didn't want to drag him all through the street. So I got really lucky, got some seats, was in the stadium and got to watch it at Dodger Stadium. And it was incredible, man. This team, the golden era of Dodger baseball, this team, you can just still feel it. Like it's last year's parade was great because we didn't get the 2020 parade. And it was like the one that no one could say was, okay, it wasn't the quote unquote Mickey Mouse ring. It wasn't a short season ring. It was like the full season ring that no one could say anything about other than they still say we bought it, but F them, who cares, right? But to have that one, like where we could actually go to, I didn't, I wasn't able to go to an 88 parade. So to be able to go to actually my first Dodger parade, I made it special. But this one, just the back-to-back was just great. The stadium was incredible.
Awesome. Any particular moments, things that a certain Dodger may have said or celebrations that one of your favorite moments or any takeaways?
Probably like, so Yamamoto, get up there speaking in a little bit of Spanish, a little bit of English, a little bit of Japanese, right? And the losing is not an option line, which I think he's going to market for the rest of his career, right? Which is brilliant. But for me, probably, Kike was great. Obviously, I kind of saw that coming. But Kershaw, getting Kershaw up there and kind of say his goodbyes. Mookie and Freddie both trying to take blame for whoever got here and they started winning first type of thing. But for me, Kershaw.
Awesome. Yeah, Kike is like the king of now celebrations. Like you just don't know what's about to come out of his mouth, and he let loose. They had to bleep him out, but I love it. Love the energy. Another guy that's a free agent. I expect the Dodgers to bring back Kike Hernandez. I don't see why they wouldn't at this point. He helps them in October, which is ultimately his job. And as long as he continues to deliver in the postseason, I don't see anything wrong with bringing back a good bench bat. So I think Rojas and Kike are safe bets to return to the Dodgers in 2026. I see more people tuning in. Yeah. If you got questions for me or Jeff, we're going to talk some offseason a little bit. Right now, we're just celebrating the Dodgers being World Series champions. Why not? I wanted to call out, I can't remember his name, but there was that one Blue Jays reporter that was just so salty.
Oh, yeah. He works for their network. On that, yeah, the one that said the best team lost, that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, who the hell do you think you are saying that the best team lost when you just played a best of 7? It wasn't like it was a 1-game playoff or even an NLDS for that matter. You had a best of 7. You had 4 opportunities to get wins. You only got 3 wins at the end of the day. Your bullpen blew it. I mean, Jeff Hoffman had the Dodgers on the ropes. All he had to do was get 3 outs, and he only got 1 out until he coughed up that home run to Miguel Rojas. So I don't want to hear it that the better team lost. That is a bunch of nonsense. The Dodgers beat the Blue Jays fair and square, and they had home field advantage. It's not like the Dodgers were the home team by any means. They had Game 6 and Game 7 in Toronto, and they blew both of them. They only won 1 game in Toronto. They lost 3 of them. So shut up, whatever that Blue Jays reporter's name is. If I ever find you, we can talk it out.
Yeah, and it's funny because, I mean, obviously the best team in the World Series has lost before numerous times, right? That's not the case in this scenario. The best team the best team doesn't lose 3 or 4 games at home. The best team doesn't bat what they did with runners in scoring position. Look, I've given a ton of credit to the Blue Jays. I've done a ton of videos about them. I've battled Toronto people. I've embraced Toronto people. I've gone back and forth with them. But I will say that, you can get all these singles and they're great, but without the slug, you're not going to win. And all those singles and not being able to do anything to get them in, is great. But eventually you got to hit that big bomb. Now, but shit had a big bomb early in the game, 3-0. But every time the Dodgers got to, I've got a buddy of mine who always tells me whenever a team goes up 3-0, they're cooked. If they go up 3-0 and the other team doesn't score right away, they're cooked. It always happens. I never really thought about it. But the last 3 games I saw go up 3-0, that team lost. And I'm like, so as soon as the Blue Jays went up 3-0, I was like, oh, let's see if this actually works in Game 7. But outside of that, they couldn't do anything else, right? They really couldn't do anything. They had that one hit that Tail just couldn't get the route on, couldn't catch up to the ball again in right field. A lot of other guys probably make that play. I'm not going to say he was dogging it, but he just doesn't have the ability to run those out. They go up, I think it was 4-1 at that point, right? They had a 4-1 lead. So they get the 4-1 lead. And so not only did you come home to Toronto after winning 2 in a row in LA, you have to get 1. In Game 6, again, 2nd and 3rd, nobody out. In Game 7, and you have a 4-1 lead. In the 9th inning and the 10th and the 11th inning, you had runners in scoring position, and you couldn't cash it in. So, no, the better team did not win because they were not the better team coming into the series, and they definitely were not the better team coming out of the series.
Absolutely. The other one that I just need to call out real quick. Sometimes I like him. Other times he just drives me nuts. But Chris Russo, a.k.a. the Mad Dog, going off yesterday or today on Joe Davis.
I saw that. Yeah.
Hosting the World Series championship celebration for the Dodgers. Like, this has to be clickbait because I'm sorry. Like, Joe Davis works for the Los Angeles Dodgers. He also works for Fox. I get it. But at the end of the day, the Dodgers are also sending him paychecks. So this isn't like some conflict of interest or anything. And I gave Joe Davis a lot of credit, too, during the World Series. I thought he was very objective, and I felt like he didn't have any bias towards either side. It wasn't like, was it Brian Anderson, who was excited every time the Brewers did something, but then sounded melancholy when the Dodgers did something. Joe Davis actually was ecstatic for both sides. When Bo Bichette hits a 3-run home run in Game 7, he sounds electric. When Miguel Rojas hits a home run in Game 7, he also sounds electric. So, Chris Mad Dog, you are just the definition of clickbait, and I don't want to hear it. You're just an old man yelling at clouds.
Yeah, you know what? I wonder where this same energy was when Joe Buck hated the Dodgers for so long, calling all those games in 2017 and 2018 and think he was still 2020, right? I think he was. And whenever the Dodgers faced the Cardinals and Joe Buck was calling that game, he's got Cardinals basically in his blood, right? So it only became a problem. Vince Scully called World Series games, right? Like this isn't abnormal for the best play-by-play guy in baseball to get the World Series gig. And I agree with you. I think that Joe Davis was so good at being neutral that I actually believe there's a ton of Dodger fans that didn't like his coverage because they felt that he kind of turned their back on him by being too hyped for Toronto, right? Like every time Vladdy got a hit, he would get excited. He would get loud. He's a baseball fan first, right? So he got into that. And you're right. When Bo Bichette hit that home run, he got excited, and it sounded like neutral to me. I think what Russo said he had a problem with was his call at the end of the game, which said, if you want to beat the champ, you got to knock him out. The Dodgers stand tall and go back to back. Well, he had that. I guarantee you, Joe Davis had a final call for whichever team won. Just, he had it. He had that prepared. If the Dodgers went back to back, that wasn't off the top of his head. That was prepared, right? I guarantee you, he would have had something for the first time since 1990 or whatever it was. Like he would have had something in play had the Blue Jays won that, right? And it would have been as exciting as his tone of voice would have been if it was the Dodgers. And for anyone that had any doubt of Joe Davis working, is go back and watch Savage just absolutely shutting us down. And Joe Davis was just glazing the hell out of this dude, right? And to the point where so many Dodger fans were upset about it. But I was like, let the man do his job. Like, this is his dream. He's calling the World Series. Like, I'm a diehard. I bleed blue. And if I'm calling a World Series game, I love the Dodgers, but I'm going to be locked in on the assignment, right? And I thought he did a great job. And Mad Dog gets his job to yell and get mad and go goofy and get stupid. That's what he does. But he wasn't the only person saying it. It's all over Twitter. People were saying, Joe, this is the worst. This is the worst. This is the worst. And it's just like, you can't win. Anything attached to the Dodger just comes with inherited hate at this point, which we got to love it because we got to embrace the villain role. We got to, even our announcers.
Evil Empire.
Yeah.
And speaking of Evil Empire, I think that's the perfect transition to now segue with the most marquee free agent on the board right now, Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker last played for the Chicago Cubs. He had a fairly good season. 22 home runs, 841 OPS, 73 RBIs, 25 stolen bases. Plays a good outfield. In case you're not familiar with Kyle Tucker, is soon to be 29. Dodgers are already linked as one of the teams potentially interested in signing Kyle Tucker. It's not going to come at a cheap price, though. The early reports are he's going to get or potentially fetch over $300 million, which is, pretty hefty commitment for an outfielder. First off, Jeff, overall thoughts. Kyle Tucker, you a fan or are you good on passing on him?
I like Kyle Tucker. If this was 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I might be more inclined to do it. But, the second half of that contract is going to be really bad. You're going to need some guys that as Mookie and Freddie and these guys age out, you're going to need someone. I'm not sure if it's Tucker. He's solid defensively. He can definitely hit the baseball. He's coming off an injured year, but $300 to $350 million. He's essentially getting Mookie money, and he's not Mookie. You know what I mean? So for me, I like Kyle Tucker. I don't like him for that number. We'll see what the market bears. The Cubs doesn't sound like they're going to be in it. I don't believe that the Yankees will be in it. I think the Giants might be a sneaky play for him. They've kind of missed out on everyone and everythking. So I think with Posey in there, he kind of fits them. Toronto, if they're gonna spend, depending on what they get, Bo Bichette. But I like Kyle Tucker, but I don't think the Dodgers love him enough to pay him that much money. I don't think. I think the only way I see the Dodgers doing this, and I'm interested to get your thoughts on this. Kyle Tucker is one of those guys that we've seen the Dodgers do time and time again, where it's like, we'll give you like a 3-year deal with a really, really high AAV. And like, we'll pay you crazy for like 3 years, but we're not giving you a 10, 8, 7, 8, 9, 10-year deal. They did that. They offered that to Harper. They offered it to a bunch of other guys until Mookie or until their guys became available that they would give that long-term to. I don't think that's him.
BC saying that Newsweek predicts Dodgers sign Kyle Tucker for $427 million.
Wow,
I
it's
I think that
crazy.
might be a little too aggressive. I don't see any team paying Kyle Tucker that much. I mean, that's a lot of money, and we see around the league many of these owners are fairly frugal when it comes to spending. I do think the competition for Kyle Tucker is going to be fairly slim overall at the end of the day. I don't think there's going to be that many suitors that are willing to pay that Kyle Tucker price. However, I do kind of think it's a long shot, but this could end up being like the Freddie Freeman situation where you have a really talented player on the free agent market, and for whatever reason, nobody wants to pay him. So I do think there is an outside shot that Kyle Tucker just somehow falls into the Dodgers' lap because we have the resources, we have
Yeah.
the revenue, and we have the best organization in baseball. Where I can see a world where Kyle Tucker signs with the Dodgers. Maybe it's like 8 years, $300 million, heavily front loaded with an opt out after maybe year 5 or year 6. So he could go back into the free agent market if he feels like he wants to challenge himself and try to get more bag out there. I'm giving it low odds right now. It's also very early in the offseason. So we'll hear about more teams being interested as the days approach. But right now, I think it's more unlikely than likely that Kyle Tucker is in a Dodgers uniform next year. I think they're going to want to play the kids. I mean, Josue DePaula, Zaire Hope, maybe James Tibbs, or those are the main 3 right now that would be the most ready for the majors. I think they're going to try to incorporate one of them later on in the season. But it's interesting. It's definitely something to worth monitoring. Kyle Tucker is an impact bat, no doubt about it, and he fits a need for the Dodgers because this team does need an outfielder, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I could. Another layer here is we don't know if we're going to get a lockout. A lot of people think it's a slam dunk case. We'll see. Heading into a lockout, we may not see a lot of teams want to spend this offseason. So that could also benefit the Dodgers. And you're right, maybe like front loaded opt outs. You could see that. But I just don't know if they give him guaranteed 8 years. You know, he has an opt out, maybe an opt out at 5, but I don't know if they give him that option. Like, okay, we're going to give you 8, but you can choose to leave us after 4 or 5. That'd be interesting if they do that, but he does fit them. He does fit them. I just don't know if they hold that much value in him in that type of money. I don't. They've been very, very selective of who they give that big money to. And I don't know if he fits that criteria for them. Maybe he does. I don't know.
Just to confirm with some people, Kyle Tucker is not represented by Scott Boras. I believe it's Excel Sports Management. Just in case those who were wondering in the chat. Next man up, Tarek Skubal, probably going to win his back-to-back Cy Young. A lot of rumors right now with him being 1 year away from free agency. The Detroit Tigers find themselves in kind of a difficult decision where early on it's viewed as unlikely that they're going to be able to meet his high asking price when he does become a free agent. Early predictions right now, Skubal will fetch anywhere north of $400 million, which is a huge contract to commit to a lefty, especially one that's about to be 30. So this is kind of an interesting opportunity right now where if the Tigers are open to listening to offers, do the Los Angeles Dodgers phone in with Detroit and try to see if they can meet the demands? So we'll start with kind of the overall thoughts here. Would you give up the farm for Skubal?
No. Simply because I don't think that's the guy they target. I think that the farm is being preserved for someone else. But I think, again, if he was 2 or 3 years younger, he didn't have the injuries he had in the past, the age, that money. The Yankees didn't sign Yamamoto because they didn't want to pay him more than Garrett Cole. I don't know if the Dodgers are going to pay another starting pitcher more than Yamamoto, being Skubal. I don't think that's going to be the case. So I don't think because with that being said, it's a 2-part answer because I don't think they trade the farm for a guy they know they're probably not going to extend and probably not going to sign long-term. So if he ends up being a rental, if Detroit doesn't get necessarily what they want because a team can't work out a deal with them and it comes a bidding war at the deadline for a rental, then I can see the Dodgers getting involved because you wouldn't have to give up the farm. And that might be the Pirates' best play to do. See where their team is then. Maybe he comes down on his asking price. Maybe you can make it work. I've heard different reports on him, though. I've heard that like as far as $250 million apart, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know how true that is. But if that's the case, I think it was I think it was foul territory. Might be that they said like if your offer isn't, if the floor isn't the highest paid pitcher in baseball, then there's no conversation. So that means what, Yamamoto's 326. So the floor is 327 for Skubal. I don't know, man. He's good, but like you said, a lefty, 29. He's got the injuries. I don't know if they do that. To me, the guy that the Dodgers would probably dump the farm for would be Skeens. I don't think it's Skubal.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The Dodgers just proved in back-to-back seasons that they don't need Skubal to win World Series championships. So I don't see them just completely evaporating their farm to get another lefty of a position they just don't need right now, because they've got Blake Snell, they've got Yamamoto, they've got Glass now, they've got Ohtani. Sasaki is going to be more seasoned and probably be in the rotation. Emmett Sheehan, another guy you can lean on heavily. River Ryan coming back from Tommy John surgery. Robleski will probably eat some innings. So
Gavin Stone coming back. So it's like
Gavin Stone, another one. So the rotation looks fairly set. There's going to be injuries. Don't get me wrong. They're going to have to call up guys, get a spot start here and there. But for now, it just doesn't seem like the Dodgers operating system to go all in on Skubal, a guy that they just don't need. And if I'm Detroit, just from my vantage point, I would try to go all in for 2026. I wouldn't sell on Skubal. The American League, in my opinion, is fairly wide open. If they can just get aggressive, sign a couple big bats, maybe they sign Alex Bregman, maybe they trade for another complimentary starter, they have a good shot to win the AL pennant. Because Skubal, not to be over dramatic here, these last 2 years of Skubal has been kind of the equivalent of what we've gotten out of Clayton Kershaw for many seasons.
Yep. And they should have signed Bregman last year. They were the favorite at one point to get him and didn't pay him. So I look at it like this. If they're training Skubal, they're signaling they're not going for it. So you're probably never going to have this chance again for another 5 to 10 years, if that. So even like you're going to trade for guys that may not lead to anything. And when it comes down to getting them paid, you're going to trade them anyways. So you might as well just see if you can get to a World Series with this crew, right? I mean, if that's your train of thought, you don't want to let a guy go for nothing, but you can at least ride it out through the trade deadline. You're going to get good assets if you wait up until that point. But I think you hit it on the head. The biggest reason why I think the Dodgers don't do it is because he's not their biggest need. He's just not.
Let's get to actual needs now. So Alden Gonzalez was one of the first to report it. There's also just been a lot of talk in general that the Dodgers are going to be very aggressive in the relief market. And that's not really a surprise if you've been following the Dodgers, because the bullpen was arguably their biggest weakness last season. And that's despite giving a huge contract to Tanner Scott. That's despite giving Kirby Yates a huge one-year deal. And they brought back Blake Trinan. He had a down year. On top of that, Evan Phillips is going to miss a big bulk of this upcoming season as he's recovering from Tommy John surgery. Michael Kopech is a free agent. So, and Roki Sasaki, I know there's probably some out there that think he should be the Dodgers closer next year. I can pretty much assure you that Roki Sasaki does not want that, and I don't think the Dodgers want that for Roki Sasaki. They're going to try to get him back into being that molded starter that they have a lot of high expectations for. And Sheehan will probably be in the rotation as well. So there's a huge need in the Dodgers bullpen. And the first name that stands out, probably the biggest marquee free agent, just in terms of resume, is Devin Williams. So let me know in the chat what you guys think about Devin Williams. Do you want him on the Dodgers? Pass it over to you, Empire Jeff. What are your thoughts on Devin Williams as a potential Dodgers target?
I think he's at the top of the list. They've been linked for forever. He thought he was getting traded there last offseason. It didn't happen. The Yankees kind of got in there late and got it done because the Dodgers know they pretty much had Tanner Scott in the bag. So Devin Williams, I think it's funny because a lot of people are going to talk about his struggles last year, but his metrics were still pretty decent. He had a span where he wasn't that great, but the Dodgers also have righties coming back, right? And I know Phillips going to miss a lot of the season, but they're going to get Gratterall back. We'll see what happens with Kopech. But they're going to have guys there. But I think that Williams is going to be right at the top of the list. I don't know what his market's going to bear. I don't know what his money's going to look like.
Yep.
I think if he was a free agent last winter, he would have got stupid paid. I think because of this year, he may have to do a make good contract, which just screams Dodgers, right? 1+1 or a short term deal, high AAV, or maybe something with some defer, whatever it is. It just screams Dodgers to me. The Dodgers are known. You get a guy, maybe had a down year, he comes into this Dodger system, rebuilds himself, and becomes, a 5, 6, 7 year Dodger, right? On top of that. So I think Devin Williams is at the top of the list.
Yeah, I mean, last season, going off what you were talking about, the way he pitched entering 2025, if Devin Williams was a free agent last offseason, he's probably making somewhere between $75 to $90 million. But after a disappointing season for the New York Yankees, I'm seeing a lot of common guesses out there that Devin Williams might only get a 1-year, $10 million contract to prove himself. Now, I think Devin Williams is going to get more than that. It might have to still be a 1-year deal. Maybe it's a 1-year, $18 to $20 million contract. I mean, can one bad season really mess up your contract value like that? I mean, let's put this in perspective. In 2021, he had a 2.50 ERA. In 2022, he had a 1.93 ERA. In 2023, he had a 1.53 ERA, and in 2024, a 1.25 ERA. But last season, a 4.79 ERA. But then, like you said, you look at his underlying metrics, 2.68 FIP. It's just fascinating to me that a guy's market value could tank like that when he's arguably been one of the best relief pitchers over the last 5 years. So if teams are scared to sign Devin Williams and he's comfortable going on a 1-year prove-it deal, you can pretty much take it to the bank. Devin Williams will probably be closing for the Dodgers this upcoming season.
Yeah, if teams try to leverage that year, so maybe they think he's worth more, but they try to play that card and the Dodgers are sitting there waiting. He's also going to be like, look, they wanted me last year. They believed in me for a while. That's how they got Blake Snell. That's how they got Tanner Scott. They tried to trade for Tanner Scott for 2 years. They couldn't really get it done. They tried to sign Blake Snell at the last minute there, but he was kind of far along with the Giants. And they even went so far as to be like, just to let him know they still wanted him, they let it be known, and they reached out that they tried to trade for him from San Francisco, which everyone knows wasn't going to happen, but they were still signaling to him that they still wanted him, and they got him. So the Dodgers, Tommy Edman, they wanted for years. So when you see the guys that the Dodgers have been linked to for years, it's pretty inevitable. Eventually, they're gonna get them, and I think the stars align. They look, bullpens are volatile. Right? Bullpens are volatile. We could sit here right now. We could be sitting here 3-4 months from now, having two guys that had 2 down years and looking at them being complete monsters from the left and right side with Tanner Scott and Williams. Because I'm telling you right now, Tanner Scott has bounced back in him. Something was wrong with him all year. I have no way, shape, or form given up on him. So if you have a bounce back of Williams and Tanner Scott at the back end of that bullpen, then good luck with that starting rotation, because the Dodgers aren't going to ruin baseball. They're going to murder it. So I can see this happening.
Yeah. And on top of that, it's just so interesting to me because there's a strong case to be made that Devin Williams was just the unluckiest pitcher in all of baseball last season. Tanner Scott gave up double-digit home runs. I'm fairly certain. Devin Williams gave up 0 home runs on his 4-seam fastball last year. He gave up 5 on his changeup, but altogether just 5 home runs surrendered in the entire 2025 season. So you're telling me he had a fastball that looked good and gave up 0 home runs? I think this is an easy buy for the Dodgers.
Yep. I think there's a legitimate chance that I don't think the Yankees are out. I think if the Yankees have value in him and want to keep him, or at least drive the price up on the Dodgers, I think those two could somewhat get into a bidding war. But again, I think the Yankees have more issues. I think they're going to, on day one of free agency, I think they'll check in with him, but I don't think he's going to be their priority. Now, he has been going to Knicks games with his teammates. He's been hanging out with Aaron Judge. He's not giving the appearance of he's checked out on them. So we'll see what that means. But if the Yankees don't make him a priority and the Dodgers do, like I said, that's kind of what happened with Blake Snell. When the Dodgers checked in late on him, he was kind of already down the road a little bit in terms with San Francisco. And if they if the Yankees wait a little too long, now they've had the right to talk to him this whole time. So he probably already knows what the offer is from them. He probably already knows what he can get from them. And maybe he's thinking about going to see what the market bears. But I think the Dodgers can do something to make it work. Like you said, I don't necessarily think the Dodgers have to do 1 year. If the Yankees are offering 1 year and the Dodgers do something like let's say they do something like a Cody Bellinger deal, right? 3-year deal, but opt out after year 1 and 2. Maybe the Yankees don't do that and he sees value in that. So it's not even necessarily about the money in the first year. It's the security. What if he comes back next year and doesn't have a great year and he's got those 2 other options? So the Dodgers are known for that. So Yankees aren't. They're not a deferral team, right? They're not a team that really does that. So they did change the beard rule technically for him. So maybe they'll change their math on that. But I think it'll come down to the Dodgers and the Yankees for him. And it always feels like no matter who the Dodgers are in on, that funky little team south of us always tries to get involved just to drive the price up. So I can see the Padres being linked to him because they feel like you can have 60 bullpen guys and that's all you need to win and not hit. But yeah, we'll see.
Since you brought up the Padres, gives me the ample opportunity to just fry them real quick. The San Diego Padres, and I'm going to throw it out there on record, so if I'm wrong, they can cook me. I'm sure the Padres fans will find me. They always do. The San Diego Padres are so cooked next season, I don't even think they're going to be remotely a threat in 2026. They went all in the last few years, and now they've completely poached their farm. They're losing all these guys in free agency. They've got no one in the starting rotation. They've got a toxic locker room. They have to get another manager yet again. It's going to be a disaster in San Diego. They just lost Yu Darvish. He's out all next season as he's recovering from a elbow brace surgery. Joe Musgrove, who knows what he's going to look like. Michael King likely out the door. Dylan Cease definitely out the door. Luis Arias mostly likely out the door. Robert Suarez just opted out. He ain't coming back. This Padres team is going to be in shambles. 4th place. Take it to the bag. We're going to laugh at them next season. Not even remotely a threat.
I hope so. Like I said, they're like that little engine that could. They always, because this guy continues anything that they have that's towards the future, he finds a way to sell for something else. I don't know what they have left. But yeah, I think when we went into this season, a lot of people were down on them, and I felt they had 1 more year left of kind of what they just came off of. I'm not as confident going into next year as I was this year for them. So yeah, I think I'm more inclined to your thinking this time around than I was mine last offseason.
For sure. So to Michael Kubika's question, do you think Freeman would spend big on a bullpen arm after what happened with Scott and Kirby Yates? Right off the bat, I'm going to say no. I don't think they're going to give out big multi-year deals like they just did with the Kirby Yates, for example. For a Tanner Scott, for example. Yeah. $72 million is a lot to commit to one guy. I cannot see them doing that for 2 guys. So, for example, Edwin Diaz likely going to get a huge contract somewhere in that realm. Dodgers probably aren't in that market. Devin Williams, if it's a 1-year prove-it deal, perfect. Fits the Dodgers model exactly. And I think that's exactly what they're going to look in this free agency and potentially trades. A bunch of 1 year, maybe 2 years type of deals on a buy low and hopefully get high reward. I just don't think they're going to spend a lot of money on relievers this go around because they did it last offseason, and frankly, it did not work.
Yeah, it didn't work. I think they would. I don't think they'll go long term big. I think they will go big on 1 or 2 years. I think they will overpay annually. I don't think they'll go to the length of what they gave Tanner Scott. But I think, they were sitting there, they were hanging around. Josh Hader, before we signed with the Astros, was getting really close to working out something with the Dodgers in that same thing, 3-year deal, option years. If someone slips, if Diaz doesn't get $70 million from someone, if he doesn't get $60 million from someone, which I don't know how he doesn't. But again, heading into a lockout, or some of these owners going to spend. I think if Edwin Diaz's market is around 50 million, which again I don't think it's going to be, but like you said with Tucker, right? If teams don't pony up, or they do and they spend on the Tuckers or these other guys, and maybe some of these other guys lose their spot with teams that were going to spend that money, maybe the Dodgers can luck out on a short-term deal there. But I think it's going to be. I don't think we'll see. I think that was them last year. And I think that they believe that a lot of the guys that are coming back are going to be better than they were last year. That bullpen was ran through 2024 postseason. They just went to the well too often. In the beginning of the season, their rotation was obliterated. They were running through the bullpen again. I think those guys were just ran down. I don't think they need stars in that bullpen. They just need arms that can throw strikes and guys that can be dependable. And I don't think you need to spend $60 million to get that. And because I think Tanner Scott has a chance to bounce back strong. I don't know if they bring back Kopech, but they got guys they can put out there for the 6th, 7th, 8th. They got guys for that. It's who's that guy with the DNA from the right-hand side that may need to be a closer. Who's that guy? Is the guy I think that they will spend on, but I don't think it'll be long-term. I think it'll be like that Devin Williams situation, 2-3 years max, and with options. I don't think it's going to be a massive deal.
Yeah. Yeah, and usually relievers are kind of the last pieces to come off the board. They don't usually sign till later December, maybe January. So it might be a waiting game right now to just kind of see who's out there. Dodgers are going to find value. They'll probably find a diamond in the rough of just someone we didn't expect, and he'll flourish next season. I'm already buying Will Klein stock. I think he's going to be a big part of the Dodgers bullpen next season. And it just remains to be seen. I'm not ruling out. We'll see what happens. Kenley Jansen is always a fallback option. I know it's controversial to many Dodger fans, but they do want a closer, and Kenley Jansen wants to get saves. So there could be some mutual interest there. Just saying.
Yeah, and again, it comes down to, for me, it's going to really come down to how much they think Tanner Scott can bounce back is what it's going to come back to for me. I feel something was physically wrong with him all year. And I think that's what led to a lot of it. I don't think I'm not trying to make an excuse for him. I don't feel he just showed up and just sucked. I think something was wrong. And if they believe that whatever that was, if that was the case, and they're confident in him, then they just need to know that they got a guy that isn't going to rattle from the right-handed side. So someone like a Kenley Jansen or someone in that ilk could make some sense there to fill that Treinen role, because I think that ship has sailed, obviously, right? So as far as counting on the guy another year older with the injuries, I love Treinen. It's going to expire, right? And it may have already. I think they've squeezed about as much as they could get out of that. And I love the guy, but I don't think he's the righty you can throw out there in the 8th or 9th inning on the road against teams that are making more contact and just trust that he's going to locate and get outs at this point. I don't think it's realistic. So you could probably trust Jansen in a role like that was Treinen's role. And I know a lot of Dodger fans don't want him, but if it's not a ton of money, I wouldn't mind it.
Absolutely. Well, before I get to my big trade prediction, were there any other free agent targets or other names floating out there on the trade rumor mill that you wanted to touch upon?
I get asked about 100 times a day about Bellinger, so I think we should touch on that because that's constant. And so a lot of people didn't know this at the time, but the Dodgers got really close to bringing Bellinger back the year that he re-signed with Chicago. He was at spring training with the Dodger players. He was there. And if Chicago doesn't come in at the 11th hour and offer that third option, that third year, he's back with the Dodgers. And there was a trade set up. There was like a domino effect that was going to happen if Belly came back. And it was going to be with a deal to get them an infielder and a really good reliever. And Chicago at the last minute went in, threw in that third year. Belly went back to the Cubs, and it kind of blew up that whole plan. So I think there's always been mutual interest there. I don't know if it happens because, again, length, he's a Boris client, length of years. And I'm curious to see what you think about this. I don't know if he can hit here again. He just was so bad at the plate his last few years here. Defensively, he'll be great. Any outfield spot, he can play some first. I just don't know. He just couldn't hit here anymore. And I don't know if it was mental or if it was a shoulder injury. But he's going to be a guy that's going to be linked to the Dodgers until he signs somewhere else. So that's a guy that I think we definitely had to talk about.
Yeah, the Bellinger case is interesting. My co-host, Jake Reiner, he's already all in on bringing back Cody Bellinger. So I'm sure he'll be talking about him throughout the offseason. if the Bellinger asking price is truly going to be 5 years, I don't think I'm interested. And I have a feeling that at this point, Cody Bellinger has done so many one-year deals at this point. He's going to be very adamant that he gets that multi-year security blanket of 3 years minimum, 5 years, 5 years or more, hopefully. I'm guessing. There'll probably be a standoff for a while. Bellinger is interesting because he definitely can hit for some power, but he's also been pretty inconsistent the last few years. He goes through his ruts where he just gets into these cold spells. His defense is also kind of declining at this time. He's no longer the electric center fielder that he once was for the Dodgers. I also do have some concerns against him facing left-handed pitching. I don't know how effective he'll be against elite lefties. I'm not going to be anti-Cody Bellinger, but it's certainly a move I just don't think makes a lot of sense for the Dodgers.
Yeah, I agree. Especially on, there's no way in hell they do 5 years. There's no way. I think the maximum they would do would be 2 years. And that would be max. I don't see them going further than that. And I think that they would like, look, if he doesn't have a ton of offers, yeah, we'll definitely take you back. But if it fits within our math, but I don't think if it's 3 years or more, he's not going to be a Dodger. I don't think.
Yeah. All right, let me get into my big early prediction now. I do think the Dodgers will make multiple trades this offseason. Not huge splashy trades for the most part. The 40-man roster right now is basically full. So if they want to sign guys, if they want to add anyone to protect them from the Rule 5 draft, people are going to have to go. That's just how it is. Someone like, for example, Tony Gonsolin, I think they're just going to non-tender him at this point. I think he's cooked, unfortunately. I know he was an all-star a few years ago. I was a big Gonsolin truther, but he's just been so injury-prone and off the availability market right now for the Dodgers. Probably going to have to cut bait with him. Another interesting decision for the Dodgers, Ben Rortvedt. He has no minor league options. Can they bring back Ben Rortvedt? Maybe. But then Dalton Rushing, I guess he'd have to start the year in the minors. I don't know what their thought process is right now with that interesting duo. Anthony Bonda, great reliever, doesn't have minor league options. The Dodgers might decide it's time to sell high on Anthony Bonda because they want to have some roster flexibility. They like to have relievers that they can call up from the minors and option them back down. Wouldn't be surprised if they sell on Anthony Bonda, especially after his postseason performance. Another interesting one, Esteuris Ruiz, I guess. Don't really need him. They've got Justin Dean. It's kind of repetitive. I would imagine one of them probably is going to go. So there's going to be some moves to be made.
They could also, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I read that list too. Phillips too, right? They could technically non-tender him and bring him back when he's healthy. That doesn't seem like something the Dodgers do. They typically, if it's a guy they like and they want to take care of him and rehab him, but it's an option, especially if it's one of those, we'll do that now. And when the roster expands, we'll bring you back because, as they head into spring training and they go to the guys you can put on the 60-day DL and all that stuff. So maybe it's something that they could do there, or they do what they did with Tanner Scott and they did what they did with Kirby Yates, which they have an agreement and it just drags out for weeks until the spot opens up and then they fill in that spot. So they can have an agreement with someone to just not sign it yet. Right. So, there's those. So all those names, I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. And Gonsolin's probably at the top of the list. I don't see a world where he's back at all. I just don't.
Yep. Yeah. Gonsolin for sure. Landon Knack, I think he could be a trade chip. Wasn't really a part of the Dodgers season at all. And he's not young anymore. And so let's get into the other big name that I'm going to throw out my prediction now. And it's part of this package. So here we go. Let me put it up on the screen. Prediction: Dodgers trade for Brendan Donovan this offseason. Here's the thought process. Brendan Donovan was heavily linked to the Dodgers during the trade deadline. They couldn't get an agreement in place. I'm guessing part of that was due to the Cardinals' high asking price. At the same time, I feel like maybe St. Louis wasn't really all in, didn't have their heart into selling, thought maybe they could have a bit of a run near the end of the stretch. Then they fell off. I think St. Louis is looking at themselves in the mirror, and they know they have to really gut this roster because it hasn't been working the last 2 or 3 years. They've been missing the playoffs, and there are high expectations in St. Louis. They're a baseball city. They're not going to win the World Series every year, but they expect to be competitive every year. So a guy like Nolan Arenado probably going to get traded. Brendan Donovan, I think, makes a lot of sense for the Dodgers for a few reasons. Utility guy. He can play all around the infield, and he's an outfielder. So I think naturally he makes sense as kind of a corner outfielder guy for the most majority of this upcoming season. They're going to need to replace Michael Conforto. You could probably platoon him with a right-handed bat. I don't know who that is yet. That remains to be seen. Could be Alex Call. Could be someone else that they just don't have on the roster yet. But I think the Dodgers like guys who are versatile. I also think they want someone that they can trust maybe near the top of their lineup. So I could see a world where Brendan Donovan is leading off for the Dodgers, have him bat in front of Ohtani, because this guy has a good tendency of getting on base. Like last season, 353 on base percentage, hit 287. So this guy, he's good at drawing walks. He's good at making contact. I think he makes a lot of sense for the Dodgers. And so I don't have the full trade package in my head yet, but I do think, for example, Bobby Miller is in this trade, and they ship him off to St. Louis. I think the Bobby Miller era in Los Angeles has come to an end. I think he's a massive change of scenery guy. We've had 2 disappointing years in a row with Bobby. St. Louis, I've been told personally through insiders, a couple years ago, the St. Louis Cardinals really wanted Bobby Miller in any trade when the Dodgers were talking to them around the trade deadline. And at that time, Bobby Miller was really good for the Dodgers, so it made no sense for them to trade him. So keep tabs on that.
Yeah, and Alex Call's another guy they could technically non-tender too, but that's one of the guys like there's one more. Who is it? That was it. I mean, you have a guy that can walk. He can play multiple positions in utility. That just screams Dodger all over it, right? So I could see that happening. I also think that the Cardinals didn't want to send a guy to the Dodgers in back-to-back years that can win an NLCS MVP, right? So they're probably like, they don't like us too much, right? So, if they're doing a trade that thinks that works for them, I have heard too that they were really high on Bobby Miller for a long time. I heard that they wanted Bobby Miller in the Edman trade. It didn't happen. So that's interesting. I think that's something that the Dodgers, again, one of these guys that's been linked to the Dodgers forever, and eventually those guys usually find their way to LA. So I could definitely see that happening. My question to you is, so we keep talking about these outfielders, right? And we talking about, Rortvedt, right? That's assuming that Rushing's going to be here, right? So there's 2 guys for me that are very interesting when it comes to trade pieces, and depending on who you're trading for. And they're both shocking if we would have said this a season ago. And to me, that's Dalton Rushing and Andy Pages. So those 2 guys, depending on what the Dodgers are going for, because I'm one of these guys that I don't believe the Dodgers' big move is going to come via free agency. I think that I agree with you. I think there's going to be a multitude of trades, and some below the radar, some, okay, that's a good trade. And I think there's one that's going to come out of nowhere that people are going to be like, oh man, they just got him. I don't know who that guy is. But if you're going to get that, oh man, they just got him, then it's gonna have to be one of your like an everyday. They usually want like a prospect and an everyday guy. Yeah. Well, Andy Pages is an everyday guy, and Rushing's the prospect. So who I don't know what that guy or who that guy is, but those are 2 names that are very, very interesting to me moving forward, because it affects, and I think we'll see that who they sign. If they sign, like let's say they get a Tucker or they get a Bellinger, and then they sign another corner outfield guy, right? Then it's like, okay, what just happened, right? Because that means either Teo or someone's out of there, right? So and that's another guy I want to talk about. But that's I think your trade prediction is, I think that's a good one, actually. I think that's a good one because he's been linked to us forever.
Yeah, we can talk about Teo in a second, and I think you're on the right path. I think Andy Pages is still at least 1 more year away from being on the trade block. I think they believe in him. I think they like his defensive abilities, and there's still more to tap into with the bat. So I think Pages is safe for now. But with that being said, I think you're on the right path because Dalton Rushing, I definitely see as a trade candidate. The other guy that I think could potentially be in a trade, maybe this is the Brendan Donovan full package, and then on the flip side, maybe St. Louis sends us a prospect or something else to sweeten the deal. Alex Freeland.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of question marks. What Alex Freeland's role with the Dodgers truly is going to be next season, because I mean, let's face it, they have the depth in the infield. If Mookie Betts wants to be a shortstop, he's going to be a shortstop. That kind of puts a hold on Alex Freeland playing shortstop. They've got Max Muncy at third base. I think he's there at least another season. So you can't really have Freeland at third base. Second base, I mean, they've got a multitude of guys between Tommy Edman potentially. Hae-Sung Kim could be playing some second base. So they kind of are squeezing Alex Freeland out. And maybe that was part of the development. Get Freeland some major league at-bats and then flip him for a need. So Freeland, I think, could potentially be going with Bobby Miller in that Brendan Donovan trade.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think they'll be looking to move Pages, but I think if the right deal comes along, they would. You don't just give up on a guy who just got 27 home runs in his first full year in the bigs because he had a stretch back at the end of it. But if they, like I said, if it's that guy, if it's a guy that you can't pass on, I think he definitely could go. But Freeland, you're right. I think Freeland, Rushing, I think Miller, I think those guys are going to be at the forefront of, if the Dodgers want to make a trade, those are the guys they'd be most comfortable with moving. I think they'd be a little uncomfortable with moving Pages. And I think they'd have to really think hard about it. But it would have to be a trade that we're like, well, we had to move him to get this guy. But I think those other three would be at the front of the list.
Just going to go through these questions real quick through some rapid fire. Last call for questions if you want to get them in. 45. Have they addressed Murakami yet? That would be sick. I don't think the Dodgers are going to sign him because they probably have Max Muncy at third base next season. Rebecca Michelle David, always appreciate Rebecca tuning in. Who replaces Kershaw's unique position from 25? Some relief, etc.
That's a good question. That's a good question. It's funny because he had a good season. So it wasn't just like the farewell, okay, throw him out there just so we can get out there and get some innings. He had a good season. I think we all knew what potentially could happen come playoff time if they threw him out there, right? I think we were all nervous, putting him in that situation, right? So I don't think we have anyone that's going to be the guy that's, okay, you're going to be the regular season and we're going to put you in the bullpen for legacy and be worried when you come in. I don't think they have that guy. But I think the guy that they'll probably have in the rotation, throw into the bullpen come playoff time, I think you're going to see Sheen again in that role, right? I think you'll see that, and you might, depending on how Roki's development comes along, I think you could see him kind of in a role like that. I think he full-fledged goes back to starter next year, but if they go to a four-man rotation come playoffs, I could see those other guys. They may do that six-man rotation, right? They can do that, but come playoff time, I think guys like that could kind of fill that role. They're just not going to be the legend in their last year. But as far as the guy who helps them eat innings during the regular season and then moves to the pen, I think those two guys are right at the top of the list.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. The Dodgers, part of their script is they always bring on like one veteran arm or someone that's within the roster, and they just let that guy eat innings, and then he either gets injured or they just cut him all together around the trade deadline. We saw that with Dustin May. We saw that with James Paxton. Could Andrew Heaney be coming back and be that guy? I don't know. I found that interesting that the Dodgers brought on Andrew Heaney out of nowhere. I don't know if that was kind of like a teaser that they're going to be working on him and bring him back this upcoming season. But yeah, I don't think anyone is going to replace Kershaw altogether, but they'll find guys here and there to kind of fit that role.
Real quick. Let me throw out two names that fit the role of the aging veteran at the end of his career with a ton of playoff experience and a guy that could probably get you through a regular season and fill in spots. I'm not saying I want either one of these guys, but because they specifically said kind of that type of scenario, would you be open to a Scherzer or a Verlander?
Well, I'm pretty sure, I can't remember who reported it, but they were pretty much saying when the Giants hired their new manager, I don't know his name yet. I have to look it up.
Oh, yeah, they got Tennessee. Yeah.
Max Scherzer is like good buddies with him, and it's almost like a lock that Scherzer is going to go to San Francisco to kind of help in his last season, serve as a mentor. I don't want Scherzer. He pitched awful in the playoffs and all of last season anyways. I don't think he's going to help us. Justin Verlander is an interesting one, but again, he also pitched bad. last season, and I don't want Ben Verlander jumping on the Dodgers train.
Oh yeah, yeah, because he
I'm
would, because
kind of
he
out on
would.
both of them.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking it'd be because I think if Scherzer goes to the Giants, then Verlander's probably out of it. I don't see a world where they
Yeah.
have both of them. I'm just saying if you're looking for that vet, someone along the lines of that, I was just throwing it out there. I personally probably wouldn't want either one of them, but because that question got asked, my mind started going to a place.
Yep. No name thoughts on making a trade for Taylor Ward. Taylor Ward is actually someone I brought up in our Discord earlier because the Angels, it was reported by Morosi that Joe Adell and Taylor Ward could be on the trade block for the Angels. Let me preface it by saying Artie Moreno has his head so far up his ass that he might be too stubborn and just veto any potential trade with the Los Angeles Dodgers. So I wouldn't get your hopes up. But if Taylor Ward were to be available to the Los Angeles Dodgers, that is most certainly a corner outfielder I'm highly interested in. The guy is just slugged. I mean, he had 36 home runs this most recent season. The year before, 25 home runs. A couple years prior to that, 23 home runs. The guy mashes, hits for power, has had good years where he gets on base as well. And I believe he's a free agent after this upcoming season. I'm a big Taylor Ward guy, so I would like it.
I agree with you. I don't think Moreno would do it. Let me ask you though, would you trade Pages for him?
No.
Yeah. See, so yeah, that's probably what they'd want. So I don't think that happens. One, I don't think Moreno would do it, and the only way he does do it is if he feels he fleeced him, and I don't think that's going to happen either. So I like Taylor Ward. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yep. That's all I got. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Thank you, everyone listening on the audio feeds, whether it's Apple, Spotify, or you're watching on YouTube. Leave us a comment below if you had any predictions for us or something you want me to address on the next episode. Let me pass it over to Empire Jeff TV. I want to give you a second to promote your work and give me any final thoughts or something you want to talk about before we get on out of here.
Again, just thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Like I said, been wanting to come on here for a bit, so I'm happy. I'm a scheduling nightmare, so I'm glad. Like my schedule's a hot mess, so I'm happy to pull up here. This was fun. This hour flew by, so thank you for that. As you can find me at Empire Jeff TV everywhere, YouTube, IG, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere Empire Jeff TV. So I haven't been doing a ton of live streams, obviously because of my schedule, but I've been hitting with the clips, the shorts, and all of that. So I will be back covering the offseason heavy. So I would love to have you on my show as well. And I'll be back covering I got started covering basketball. I've become kind of like, people know me kind of more now as baseball, but I got started on YouTube with covering the NBA. So I'll be back to that soon. I just really couldn't take my eyes off baseball until it was done, and I'm kind of like, I finally watched my first half of basketball like the other night, so I'm gonna catch up a little bit there. Then I'll be back to covering the Lakers again, which I love to do. But again, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. This was fun. I love talking Dodger baseball with Dodger people, and this was great. So I appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah, hit me up, and we'll get you back on soon as well. Thank